Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Seth Joyner Show as we attempt to bring some levity, try to bring some understanding to what we just witnessed on Sunday. Um, the Eagles upset in a loss against the New York Giants. Um, and you know what, man? Listen, I was really hot on Sunday night in post game, as most of you guys could tell. And then it hit me as I was thinking about it today. I said, you know what? I began to look back at week 16 last year when the Eagles were in position to win a football game. And in the second half, with the game still hanging in the balance, Doug Peterson inserted one Nate Sudfeld in the game who hadn't played in the game in darn near 2 years. Um, and all of a sudden, I realized, you know what? They're playing for the draft pick. And then the same thought hit me today as I was thinking about what I witnessed. Because if the Eagles win that game on Sunday against the New York Giants, they are now sitting in the number 6 spot. And it affects everything. It affects, where their draft picks fall. Right now, I believe they have 2 in the first 10 picks and then one right around 14. So when you start to think about all of that, I have to ask myself the question. I'll throw the question out there to you guys, and certainly I'll throw it out there, to my guests when I intro and bring them on. Does this feel like that's what this was? Because the Eagles dominated the NFL offensively the last 4 weeks, the previous 4 weeks, I should say, running the football. There was not a single offense in the NFL that was more efficient, effective, and dominant running the football than the Philadelphia Eagles. And then you go into last week's game against the New York Giants, the number 28th ranked defense stopping the run, and the number 22nd defense against the pass. And in the first half of the football game, the running backs touched the football a combined 10 times. And Jalen Hurts threw 15 passes and 2 interceptions. Now, I get it. This whole, and I want to get into this, with my guests a little bit too, because I was listening to this debate on Sirius Radio today where they were talking about, how much it's a passing league and that you really don't dominate and you really don't win football games running the ball anymore. It's an afterthought. Well, for the first time in almost 2 years, the Eagles won 2 games back to back, dominating running the football and with halfway decent defense. And then, we moved away from it this week against a team that clearly we're the superior team. If they play the New York Giants 10 times, they beat them 9 out of 10 times. And we decide to come out and just throw the ball. Now, I get it. Sometimes, you come out with the game plan to throw the ball to set up the run. The conventional wisdom is you come out, you run the ball to set up the pass. Okay. But for me, when Nick Sirianni saw that Jalen Hurts was off, that things were after the first interception, that was the time to adjust the game plan and say, okay, let's go back to what we've been doing the last few weeks and get this game under control. Well, he didn't do it. And even though the game was close and even though the defense played outstanding, when you hold a team to 13 points in the NFL, you should win. Okay. All that being said, the flow of the game had already flipped. Whatever confidence that the Giants didn't have being embarrassed on Monday night the week before, they found it in the first half of the football game last week. And it was the difference in the game. And they fought all the way through. I don't know where this coaching staff goes. I'm hearing that, some of Nick Sirianni's comments are actually throwing Jalen Hurts under the bus. I'm going to let my experts come in and address that. I don't care one way or the other. There's nothing wrong with calling the player out, in my opinion, because I grew up in the era where that was pretty common to do so. You man up, you pull your big boy pants up, you own it like Jalen Hurts said he would, and you move on. And people like to make a big deal about it. And then one Jalen Reagor before we really jump into the show. How does Nick Sirianni continue to put a player on the field that doesn't give you production in any way? He's not effective in punt returns. He's not effective in kickoff returns. And it's like playing 10 on 11 when you have him on the field as far as the wide receiver position on offense. 7 targets he got in this past game. 7 targets for a guy who has a combined total of 7 catches this entire season. But your number one wide receiver and your number one tight end only garnered 7 total targets the entire game. And Nick Sirianni had the audacity in the press conference post-game to talk about wanting to get a guy involved in the offense who hadn't been productive. In my day, if you don't produce, then you don't play. If you're not productive and we can't trust you, we're not going to throw the ball to you. We're not going to call your number on a blitz. We're not going to put you in man-to-man situations because we can't trust you. Yet Nick Sirianni, at the critical point of this season, decided to make Jalen Reagor the focal point of the offense this past Sunday. And you can say what you want to say. I agree. 1 play or 2 plays don't necessarily constitute whether you win or lose a football game. But when you drop 2 touchdown passes at the end of the game, not 1, but 2, that gives your team a chance to go up by 1 point with less than a minute and a half left in the game, okay? Hard for me to say that those 2 plays right there did not cost the Philadelphia Eagles potentially a playoff spot. Now, to help me break it all down is one of my current colleagues, one of my former colleagues. Love these guys. They're great together. I know everybody is looking forward to hearing from them. Everybody looks forward to hearing from one Derrick Gunn and Reuben Frank. I felt like it'd be great to have them both come on and join me today for one more time for old time's sake. Gentlemen.
How you doing, man?
I'm always good, brother. How are you?
You didn't tell me Reuben was going to be on. If I had known he was going to be on, I wouldn't have agreed to do this.
All right. Get him, Rube.
And I told Seth I would only do it if you were on. So, that just shows you.
Oh, now you make me feel bad. Oh.
That just shows you, the difference in what we're looking at here. But no, it's good to see you guys. Gunner,
Likewise.
miss you.
Likewise,
miss
brother.
You. Have a world of respect. Loved working with you. And
feelings mutual, my man.
Good. No, it's not.
Yes, it is. Yes,
I appreciate that. That's what
absolutely.
I meant. I appreciate that. Yeah, we had a good time. And but yeah, it's good to be here. Good to see you, Seth. And let's talk some football.
Well, let's jump into it. I guess the focal point right now, obviously, is one Jalen Hurts because this is his prove-it season. I think after week 10, I think everybody felt really good about the prospect of where Jalen Hurts was heading, based upon what Nick Sirianni was calling and how he was comporting himself. And now all of a sudden, I had someone, email me or message me in Twitter today, hey, do the Eagles use one of those picks on a quarterback? And I said, well, if you're in the camp of drafting a quarterback, and this is just my opinion, I'm gonna give you guys the floor a second in a minute to tell me how you feel about it. If the Eagles draft a young quarterback, no young quarterback, very few young quarterbacks, I should say, are immune from the growing pains of becoming an NFL quarterback. Okay. So if you draft a quarterback next year and you decide that Jalen Hurts isn't your guy, then basically you're asking for a run it back of what we've seen this year all over again, because that guy's got to go through all the things that one Jalen Hurts is now going through all over again. So do you use those picks to improve the rest of the roster and give Jalen another year? Or are you guys in the camp that, hey, he's proven and he's shown us enough that we can't trust him to be the starter beyond 2021. Rue.
Yeah, I gotta say, I mean, even when they were winning games and he was making some throws, I wasn't sold on Jalen Hurts. I need to see more growth in the passing game. And, I think the fact that they were able to run for 200 yards a game, 180, 200 yards a game, kind of masked some of the real issues going on with the offense and with the play calling and with Jalen Hurts and with the receivers, because you're not going to be able to run the ball for 200 yards every week. And, maybe Jason Kelce retires and the running game isn't what it used to be. Maybe guys get hurt, things change, teams stack the box. You got to be able to throw the ball. And I like the fact that they were running it, but you can't count on that all the time. So I need to see more growth from Jalen Hurts. And I hadn't seen enough going into the Giants game. Saw a little bit. There's certainly a lot to like about him. As a runner, as a clutch player, he seems to come up big at the end of games. We even saw that in the Giants game, although those throws weren't caught. I love his attitude, his mentality, his leadership, his work ethic. I love all those things about him. I just need to see more in the passing game, and I'm not sold on him. I really want to be, but when I'm honest with myself, I just haven't seen enough. Now, there's some options there. You give him another year. You got 3 first-round picks to bolster the lineup around him, the defense, get him another weapon or two, and that kind of thing. Or I'm not a big fan of bringing in a veteran. I don't want a 33-year-old Russell Wilson at the end of his career when this team isn't on the doorstep of being a contender. I don't want to give up draft picks for him. I don't want to pay the salary. So to me, the options are Jalen for another year or draft a kid. And I think quarterbacks are more NFL ready than they used to be. You see guys starting as rookies at a high level. If you take the right guy, which I don't have a whole lot of faith they'll do that, but we'll see. I need to see a little more of these next 5 games. I just don't know yet.
To me, I think we're seeing Jalen Hurts for what he is. Today, right now, to me, he's the same player that he was when he was playing at Alabama and Oklahoma. And when you really get down to the nuts and bolts of it, right now, Nick Sirianni is basically running Oklahoma's offense for him. Go back a few weeks ago when Nick Sirianni said he was trying to find a comfort zone for Jalen Hurts in the offense, which told me basically whatever Nick Sirianni's playbook was, he had to streamline it to cater to Jalen Hurts' strengths. I think Jalen Hurts is a dynamic runner. And to add on to what Rube said, I think he's a great leader, a great teammate, very poised for a young man of his age who's still getting his feet wet in the National Football League. But I don't think Jalen Hurts will ever be what you would consider an upper echelon quarterback in the National Football League. And they tried to force feed him as a passer early on in the season, had a measure of success, but not what you wanted to see in a progression. Then all of a sudden they found this running game. Jalen Hurts became a better quarterback when he had to throw the ball fewer times. They ran more RPOs. I've always said I don't like my quarterback being my leading rusher because you always subject him to more punishment than he should have to take, especially when you have an abundance of defensive players in the National Football League who are always ticked off because they don't like the fact that the quarterbacks are considered the golden boy in the leagues now, and everything is catered around keeping them upright while everybody else has to fend for themselves. I don't know if Jalen Hurts can improve much more than what he is. Now, is that good enough to get him another year in Nick Sirianni's offense? For me, I would give him another year. Some people don't want to hear that, but I would give him another year. You have way more dire needs. If you're going to continue to build this thing properly, it's quite obvious you need to improve on the defensive side of the football. And I've said this on multiple platforms for the past month. If they do have 3 first-round picks, those 3 picks, if I'm making the picks, will be used on a DN, a linebacker, and a cornerback, to build that defense into a hopefully championship type defense down the road. You have some pieces that are going to be here. Darius Slay. I would even bring Steve Nelson back for another year if he wants to come back here. But I would use my first 3 picks on defensive side of the football first, because as we all know, sometimes what you lack on offense, a defense can bail you out in a lot of ways. Jalen Hurts is going to be under the microscope from now until the end of this season. Every game is a 1-game audition for him. The Eagles are going to have to decide what's more important for them, going out and getting a quarterback. And if the rumors of what we're hearing is true right now, is there is no future, the chosen one, coming out in the draft next year in terms of quarterbacks. But as we all know, once you get to the combine and personal workouts, all of a sudden, some kid who's okay, he's an all right quarterback, all of a sudden leapfrogs up to the top 5 in the draft class next year. But I don't think there's a Trevor Lawrence, and you guys are right. You look at the growing pains quarterbacks go through. Trevor Lawrence, look what he's going through down in Jacksonville. It took Bill Belichick how many weeks to get Mac Jones, and look at where Mac Jones playing now. It's different. It's different from team to team in terms of the maturation of a young quarterback making the transition from the college ranks to the pros. But I do agree with Rube. I need to see something more from a Jalen Hurts, but I don't know if he can give you much more than he's already given you right now.
Yeah, I ask myself, can you win a Super Bowl with this quarterback?
Right.
And, so far, I haven't seen evidence that the answer is yes.
Right.
Well, I don't. But so, I don't want to sound like I'm trying to defend him, because I know all the Wentz people will be like, "Oh, well, you didn't do that with Wentz," So I'm not saying that. But what young quarterback who is essentially in the first year starting, okay, going through a coaching change from his rookie year, learning a whole new system with a whole new coaching staff, starting, being the guy for the first time, how many of those guys can you look at and honestly say that guy can take us to the Super Bowl? We on potential, we believe that Trevor Lawrence is going to be great, that Zach Wilson is going to be great. We believe that all these guys are going to be great. Listen, Mac Jones is the anomaly because of the system that he's under, the coach that is coaching him, and the offensive coordinator. They've proven that they have a system in place to take players and turn, guys that haven't been great or guys that may have question marks behind them. They've proven that they can turn those guys, into solid players. The Eagles don't have that, because right now what you have is a second-year quarterback who started 3.5 games last year, who just completed his 16th start last week, okay? So he's still learning how to be an NFL quarterback. Then you pair that with a head coach who's never been a head coach before, / offensive coordinator who never called plays before, with a young staff that doesn't bring a whole lot of experience to the table, okay? When you throw all of those elements together, okay, how is it that we really expect for Jalen Hurts to be showing us this glaring improvement so fast, when a lot of times these young quarterbacks, they don't really, to me, you got to see all the coverages, all the disguises, all the blitzes, all the stunts, all of these different things. You have to see them enough times as a quarterback for you to be able to look at the little small nuances in the game while you're studying to say, oh, that's what they're in, okay? So Jalen's in that process right now, but you also got a coaching staff that's in the process of learning how to do what they've been hired to do as well. So while I understand where you guys are coming from, my position still is, hey, he's learning, just like every other young quarterback. They're all trying to get to year 3 where the game slows down. And there are some anomalies, because I know somebody's going to, chime in over here in a second. What about Josh Allen in year 2? There's always those anomalies, okay? But look at Josh Allen's struggles right now. It's always year 3, year 4, the beginning of year 4, where you begin to see guys, if they've had enough time to play, enough time to experience, that's where they begin to take off.
Yeah, I mean, we might see it. I'm just my point is I haven't seen it yet.
Right.
And I mean, we see guys, you mentioned Mac Jones, I mean, Justin Herbert, you see guys who are growing, and you see it week to week. I haven't really seen enough of that from Jalen Hurts. Not saying it won't happen if he keeps playing. I would expect with his work ethic and his ability that he will get better. But will he be that elite kind of guy? I just haven't seen the evidence that is there. I watched Mac Jones. You watch Josh Allen in year 2. You say that guy could be, something really special. I just haven't seen that yet. Got 5 games left this year, and we'll see about next year. I'm certainly not writing him off. I just haven't seen, and obviously recency bias. Look, he's coming off the worst game of his life. I think these next few games are important for him to, how does he shake off the Giants game, and what kind of growth do we see in the passing game?
Well, yeah,
go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, well, see, I want to see how he matures now, because I think the Giants, we can say what we want to say about the Giants, and the Giants did everything they could possibly do to give the Eagles that game. But the one thing I noticed about what the Giants did, they made a concerted effort to keep him from the pocket. They were going to make Jalen Hurts beat them from the pocket. And I don't think he was comfortable in the pocket the entire game, to be quite honest with you. And I think he zeroes in on his primary receiver too much. I mean, he still has to learn that little nuance of looking off a receiver. And like you said, he's got 16 games under his belt in 2 different seasons, 2 different systems in the National Football League. But I go back to his college days also. If you really think about it, he was a great athlete in college, but he wasn't a great passer. He was surrounded by some of the greatest players at that particular level. I mean, he got pulled from the championship game because he wasn't getting it done. He goes to Oklahoma. He plays behind an offensive line, and when you look at the competition he was playing in Oklahoma, he can stand back there and pet the ball all day, wait for CeeDee Lamb to come free. Now he's at a level where even the worst team in the National Football League have grown men getting paid, trying to keep jobs, and they're out to take your head off each and every play. And every week is going to be a different scheme. But I think the Giants have given some people a little insight on how you try to defend, Jalen Hurts. They're going to get their yards running the football, but I want to make Jalen Hurts beat me through the air. And Jalen Hurts, he made some good throws in that game. And yes, those guys dropped some passes, but you look at the mistakes he made, some of the glaring mistakes he made in the passing game as well. And I wonder if Nick Sirianni and the coaching staff can correct those mistakes in a short amount of time. We're going to find that out.
So before we get over to Nick Sirianni, D Gunn, I just want to give you some numbers, because I understand why he left and why he got run out of Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
He's plain and simple. He could not throw the ball. But I give a guy like Lincoln Riley a whole lot of credit, because he turned this kid around in one offseason. Let me just give you the numbers. He was 237 for 340, 69% completion percentage his senior year for 3,851 yards, okay? 275 yards a game, 32 passing interceptions, and only 8 interceptions, okay? Then he turned around and he ran for another 1,298 yards and added another 20 touchdowns, okay? So the belief that he can't do it, to me, I take a little bit of exception to that, just because if he proved that he could do it there, if you got the right coach who can pull it out of him, that can show him how to be that effective, the proof is in the pudding that he can do it at this level. Now he's got to learn how to throw the ball on time, on rhythm. He's got to learn how to anticipate his throws. He's got to learn how to go through his progression. One of the things I see a lot of people say, oh, he missed the guy over here, he's wide open. But understand that when a quarterback is attempting to pass the ball, his progression either works from left to right or right to left, okay? So he could be going through his progressions on the right side and have a guy wide open down the left side and never get to him, because guess what? His progression started the other way. So it takes a little bit of understanding about what's really going on, instead of looking at the film and freeze framing a shot. Oh, that guy's wide open over there. Would Aaron Rodgers miss that guy? Absolutely not. You want to know why? Because Aaron Rodgers' eyes are scanning the entire field. Patrick Mahomes' eyes are scanning the entire field. A young quarterback has got a lot to be concerned with. And the biggest thing for him to evolve to that is trust, okay? First of all, trust. Do I trust my offensive lineman enough to stand in the pocket, okay, and feel the pressure around me, but stay there believing that they're going to fight for me in order to scan the entire field? Because he's in the mode now, and I saw it all of a sudden, not in the Giants game the week before, where he wanted to get out, but he stayed in, okay? And I was like, okay, my goodness, he's making that improvement. This week, he reverted, okay? So all of these things you have to take into consideration. You got to really think about when you're talking about a young quarterback. I think it's there. I think that, as the coach and the OC and the quarterback's coach becomes better coaches through the experience of this year, then they're more apt and better prepared to, help turn a guy, like Jalen Hurts into a better quarterback. Josh McDaniels is making Mac Jones a better quarterback. You want to know why? Because he knows how to do it. He's been doing it a long time. A lot of these guys are learning on the fly. So you got a staff that's learning, a quarterback that's learning, and a bunch of young receivers that's learning. Experience is a big deal.
I could also, and I agree with you, but I could also say there are a lot of Jalen Hurts who have come through the ranks early on. You look at a Dwayne Haskins, you look at Sam Rosen, guys like that. Everybody thought they were going to be the next great quarterbacks, and whether it was coaching, initially. No, because then they went to another team. Some quarterbacks just may not have those intangibles. So, how many athletes do we know that are great athletes at the collegiate level, mediocre or less at the pro level? It just, there's a big transition. It's David versus Goliath most of the time when you're playing at the collegiate ranks. When you get to the pros, those Davids, are guys who can rise up and be Goliaths a lot of the times. I mean, look at the two opponents. You look at the Giants. The Giants are a horrible football team, but they have 2 quality wins on their resume. The Jets are a horrible football team, but they have 2 quality wins on their resume. And he's going to have to figure it out. And I understand the coaching staff is experienced. I'm watching this coaching staff, and I look at Nick Sirianni, and he seems a little bit more comfortable in front of the camera, but he's very guarded in terms of what he says, doesn't want to say the wrong thing, especially in a market like Philadelphia where we pounce on everything. This is not Cincinnati, Green Bay, or Buffalo where you have 15, 20 media people in your face. You have 50, as Reuben will attest, 50, 60, 70 media people in your face every day, So you have to be a little bit more guarded. Maybe it's a trickle-down effect. Maybe the coach listens to the media, listens to the fan base a little too much, and it affects the overall, but I think, in a bigger scheme of things, I've loved watching how this fan base has ridden that proverbial roller coaster. Now, during the offseason, we all knew that this was going to be a year of what ifs. Everybody across the board, you look across social media, everybody agreed. We don't expect much from this team, because we understand they're going through transition. The owner, Jeffrey Lurie, told us back in January, hey, this is going to be a transition year, which basically means we're rebuilding. They hit the ground running. They beat Atlanta. All of a sudden, this team could be a contender. Then they hit the rough patches. They suck. Fire Sirianni. Get Jalen Hurts out of here. All of a sudden, they discover a running game. Jalen Hurts is a great leader, controls. Now we're back to square one again. So it goes back to what we initially talked about. We don't know what we have basically. As Rube said, it is his observation at this point. It is my observation at this point. When I look at a young quarterback, and I've said this from day one, I don't care about this team in terms of wins and losses in 2021. I want to see steady progress. When I look at a Devonta Smith, that kid's a star in the making. I want to see steady progress in certain players. Quez Watkins, I still don't know what he is or isn't. Jalen Reagor, everybody wants to tar feather him and send him out of town. I don't know what he is because he doesn't get enough looks. And when he does, he doesn't make the most of the opportunities.
I know what he is. I know what he is.
Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say he's the second coming of Nelson Aguilar. Don't say it.
Know what he is.
Don't say it. But I'm just saying.
Nelly helped his team win a Super Bowl.
There you go.
Hey, listen, I tell you what, Stevie Wonder could see what he is. We know.
Oh, geez.
Man.
Oh, my goodness. Man, he took it straight to the trenches.
Come on, man.
Wow.
Okay. To validate the point, I was watching the telecast, watching the game, and I saw the ball that he dropped, not the last one, the first one. Okay. And it was awesome because, on the telecast, what they did is they zoomed in where you could see his face, you could see the ball, you could see his hands. And as the ball is coming down, I looked when I first saw it, and I saw him close his eyes before the ball even got to him. And I said, are you kidding me?
Maybe the sun got in his eyes.
Yeah, there was a lot of glare up there,
Yeah, it could have been sun. It could have been glare off a player's helmet. Could have temporarily blinded him.
Elite level wide receivers, what they do is they develop a no flinch situation as far as their eyes are concerned with the ball. Because you get guys that do that, that wave their hand, and that'll break your concentration. The great ones, they don't flinch. He closed his eyes. He closed his eyes. It was almost like, oh, Lord, let me please catch this ball. You know, it was one, and then the ball hits him in the face mask and off his hands, you know, and here we go.
You can tell it's mental with him at this point. The longer the ball's in the air, the more he's thinking, am I going to catch it? Am I going to drop this one? You can tell it's playing on him. I don't think he's a great player, but he's not that bad. He's got to they got to shut him down like Doug did back in 2016 with Nelly at the exact same point in their career after 23 games. And get him away from football. I would send him home for a week. Send him home this week. He's got the bye week. Clear your mind and stop throwing him deep balls, because that gets him thinking. You know, because on the short stuff, you have a decent. He's made some great catches on you know, underneath stuff. He made a nice catch down to the 3-4 yard line the other night. So I think the more time he has to think, the more it's in his head. I'm going to drop this. It's kind of like, you know, I mean, we've seen it with other receivers. They go through these things where they just can't catch the ball, and it gets in their mind. And that's where he is right now.
You know what?
I think when he dropped that pass down the sideline, it could have been a touchdown. I think he was shot at that point. I honestly believe mentally he was shot at that point. And when that ball came to him on that last offensive play of the game, he's thinking, "Oh my goodness, you know, I got to catch this. I got to catch this." You know, I will say, you know what? Every receiver, you can talk about great receivers, above average, mediocre receivers. Every receiver that has played that position has dropped a pass or something close to a touchdown pass or a big play. It happens. How do you bounce back? That separates the good ones from the great ones from the average ones. We're going to find out how he bounces back after a situation like this, because now, you know, and Seth, I believe you can attest to this. It always tickles me how players, when things are going bad, tell you, you know, oh, I don't listen to what the media says. I haven't heard this. I haven't heard that. That's a lie. You have a family member, a teammate, somebody's telling you. And when you're in a market the size of Philadelphia, you can't help but hear it in some way, shape, or form. Okay? So, you know, if he says, well, I didn't really, that's a lie. And the more these players hear it, Brandon Graham is a prime example. What Brandon Graham went through early in part of his career. He was blocking everybody on Twitter. Anybody who came at him, he was blocking everybody on Twitter. He let it. Rube, you remember what I'm talking about?
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, he let this stuff get inside his head, but he got to a point in his career where he realized these people don't pay my bills. This organization still has faith in me. Now I have to somehow, some way find a way to live up to expectation. I have to shut these people up talking about they should have drafted Earl Thomas instead of drafting me. And lo and behold, one play changed everybody's opinion of Brandon Graham in the city of Philadelphia when he swatted that ball out of Tom Brady's hand in the Super Bowl. All of a sudden now Brandon Graham can walk on water in Philadelphia. He can do no wrong. When he's done playing football, he can own this market. You know, and I'm not saying Jalen Reagor is going to ever be to that point, but I'm just saying he's got to look at himself in the mirror and say, how am I going to handle this? How am I going to bounce back from this?
BG, you know, he's around the team now. You know, he had a surgery. He looked great. I saw him Sunday before the game. He looked awesome. He's not in a boot or anything, but you know, I think it's a valuable resource. He talks to these guys, whether it's Nelly or whoever, and he talks to Jalen Reagor about what he went through and about how to attack it mentally. But you still have to be wired the right way. I want to ask you this, Gunner and Seth, both of you guys. Would you shut the kid down for a week, 2 weeks at this point? Do you think there's value in that?
Go ahead, Gunn.
Ooh, I would say no. I think the best way for you to overcome a demon is to attack it head on. They tried to shut Nelly down, and it really didn't work, you know, with him. I think you can give somebody too much time to think about it. And then the inner working mechanisms to me tell them, if you shut me down, tells me you don't have faith in me anymore. You know, my days are numbered here. See, your head's already swimming because it hasn't worked out for you the way it is. Now you got all these other thoughts going through your mind. Why does the organization want to shut me down now? Is Jalen Hurts saying something about me? He doesn't want to throw me the ball. You know, what are my teammates thinking about me? And that's the worst thing you could do. Get that kid back in there. Get him back in the film study. Okay, look, we're coming to you. I'm coming to you again. We got 5 games left here. I'm coming to you again. You better be ready.
He's going to drop it again.
I understand that. And Aguilar did the same thing. When they shut him down, he came back. He dropped more passes. You got to keep playing. You got to keep him back in there. If you shut this kid down, that could mentally destroy him for the rest of the season. That's my belief.
Well,
you're not getting anything out of him anyway.
I know, but you just said he made some great underneath catches. You know, he's okay in the intermediate game. He's not good. Yeah, I'm not going to him in the clutch. I mean, let's face it. In his passing game, they only have two receivers as it is, Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert. They only have two receivers. You think about it. When Jalen Hurts steps back to pass, he's only looking for two guys. Both of those guys, he missed them. They were both open at one point in that last play. You know, you got Devonta Smith screaming down the sideline. He was open. As soon as he turned upfield on that crossing route, that's when you deliver that ball to him. He can't
make that throw, Gunner.
I agree, because he made a deep throw earlier. He underthrew it. It ended up being an interception. I agree. He can't make that throw. So can he survive? Let's go back to what Seth initially said. Can he survive in the National Football League as a quarterback? I've said it time and time again. I will say it again. I think he's a great athlete playing the position. I don't think he will ever be a great quarterback. I don't think he'd ever be a quarterback that could lead this team to a Super Bowl. Now, that's not picking on Jalen Hurts, because there are a lot of quarterbacks in this league that are good quarterbacks that will never lead a team to a Super Bowl. You know, he is what he is. You know, I've always said Michael Vick had an arm like a laser. But Michael Vick, sometimes he didn't have a touch on his passing. Vick was a phenomenal athlete playing quarterback. Electric, just like Lamar Jackson. What has Lamar Jackson led Baltimore to since he's been at the helm? He gets them on the sports page every Sunday. Is Lamar Jackson a Super Bowl quarterback? Right now, the answer is no, because he's never done it.
Well, listen, I will say this about those realms of quarterbacks that you're talking about, and I want to get to your point about Reagor, but I want to say this about quarterbacks. My biggest issue with the athlete that plays quarterback today is that teams bring them in, they bring their offense from college, or they devise an offense around their skill set instead of teaching those guys how to be a quarterback. Okay. Now, I know personally as a player, there was a lot of things in my game that had to be developed because I didn't come with those skill sets. So when people say he can't make that throw or he can't do that, I'm one that says that's BS. Because you know what? If you train him how to do it, if he gets with a quarterback coach in the offseason and they work on his mechanics and he works on understanding how to throw the ball on time and on rhythm, I believe that he can make those throws. Okay. But like everybody else, I mean, listen, of course we haven't seen it, Rube, because he's an unfinished product. He's an unfinished product. He's an undeveloped product at this point in time, because you know what? I don't believe the coaching staff that we have the type of talent developers that's necessary to take him where he needs to go. That's my opinion. Because you want to know something? As a player, your ability to get better, your ability to develop is solely limited to the knowledge base of the guy who's coaching you your first 3 to 4 years. If that guy don't know nothing, then you're not going to get better. Plain and simple. Okay.
Well, I mean, look, these guys have been around a lot of good quarterbacks. They've worked with a lot of good quarterbacks. You know, Brian Johnson, Shane, and Nick have all been with. And you know, Jalen's got his personal coach during the offseason.
Who have they developed? It's one thing to be around the guys and give them information, and they already know how to play the position. It's a whole nother deal when you got to take that a raw piece of clay and shape it and mold it and create something. None of these coaches have created anything.
Well, I mean,
they've just been on staffs that have been successful.
Well, I you give them credit for that. I mean, gosh, Phillip Rivers had incredible years with Nick, and so did Andrew Luck. I mean, you know, both those guys will tell you that their game progressed a lot working with those guys.
Listen, I'm not trying to fight it one way or the other. I'm not trying to.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, he is.
I'm speaking.
Don't back down, Rube. Stand your ground, man. Stand your ground.
You guys know me. I mean,
that's one of the reasons they brought Brian Johnson in, was because he had a relationship with Jalen, and Jalen felt like he had made progress working with Brian.
Okay. Well, then let's see. Let's see if they make the decision to bring Jalen back, then I expect to see a step forward next year. I expect to see a step forward over the next 6 games. Okay,
because I was going to say, I agree.
Because when you're a quarterback, I mean, when you're a coach, your job goes way beyond just the X's and O's. Okay, and to go back on Reagor, okay, no, you don't shut him down because you want to know. I can tell you what Jalen Reagor's what his problem is. Okay, he got lambasted last year for being picked where he shouldn't have been picked. Okay, and being unproductive and getting hurt last year. Now he's in a situation where he's unproductive, and we're absolutely killing him. Okay. So what happens in that situation? I'm telling you, every young player, even myself, when I came in the league, I went through this. Okay. An athlete who does not have self-confidence, who doesn't have any confidence at all. Okay. And that's where I believe Jalen Reagor is. When you don't have confidence, you have absolutely nothing. Absolutely. Because if you make it on a 53-man roster, you have the physical skills and the ability to play. The coaches can see that. Now it goes internal. What do I think about myself? How good do I think I am? You almost have to be an arrogant SOB on the inside in order to be successful in the NFL. As an 8th round draft pick, I thought that I deserved to be the 1st round draft pick in 1986. Okay? That's the way you have to think about yourself in order for you to elevate yourself and go out and compete against the best of the best. And right now, Jalen Reagor has zero confidence. That's what's killing him. So they need to
like Reuben said.
Hold on one second, Gunn. Yeah. They need to put him on a yellow brick road and send him to go see the Wizard. That's what he needs to do. You would shut him down? I wouldn't shut him down. I wouldn't shut him down. Listen, if I had a chance to talk to him right now, you know what I'd tell him? I would be telling him how damn good he is. Mm-hmm. I would tell him, listen, you have what it takes to be a top flight wide receiver. Mm-hmm. Don't give a damn about the fact that they took Devontae Smith, number 10 overall. Go out there and show the world who Jalen Reagor is.
Exactly.
My question is his coach telling him that? Is his coach trying to implore him and tell him how good he is and how great he can be?
Well, they are. I mean,
they have to. They have to.
One thing about Nick Sirianni that I've learned in the 8 or 9 months I've been around him is this guy is unfailingly supportive and positive, no matter what the situation. And I really admire that about him. I mean, he is talking up Reagor. I mean, if to be a head coach, you got to be, about 20% psychologist. And
absolutely,
I
think position coach.
Yeah, you're absolutely. And I think he's done a good job with that. And I give Jalen Reagor credit for coming out Sunday at the MetLife Stadium and talking to the media and being accountable. That showed me something. He didn't have to do that. Boston Scott did it too after his fumble. So, he's a good kid. And I don't see a lack of confidence. Maybe he's hiding it. He plays like he's not confident. I just think stepping away for a week or two could help clear his head. There is something there. We saw it in training camp. Gunner, you were out there. I mean, he made some crazy one-handed back of the end zone.
Yep.
There is something there. I believe that. So
there's no pressure in training camp, though. There's no
absolutely. But I'm saying physically. Physically, it's there. That's what I'm saying. That the issue is 99% mental with him. I think he's got the ability. Heck, he's getting open, so at least there's that, right? He got open in a couple huge plays at the end of a game. That's something to build on, I guess.
The question is,
I feel for coaches in the National Football League today, and I've talked to a lot of ex-players who I think will be great coaches, Seth included. And I've asked them all the same question, and surprisingly, I've gotten the same answer. I said, "Why are you not coaching? You played the game at the highest level. Why are you not coaching?" And the consistent answer I've got back is, "Man, I don't want to coach these players nowadays because you can't coach every player the same way. Like you just said, you got to be a psychologist. You've got to coach 53 players 53 different ways. You've got to nurture them 53 different ways. When I broke into this business and when I grew up watching football, if a coach got in your face and yelled at you, it made you stronger, not weaker. Nowadays, some kids shut down. You can't talk to these kids nowadays the way you used to anymore. So that drives the coaching staff nuts. You got to have special.
D-Gun, you have to put the onus on the player, okay? So if I was coaching in the NFL now and I had to go hard at a player, I would ask them, how great do you want to be, okay? How great do you want to be? See, because the old saying, you can't coach them until they know that you care about them, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So by me showing them how much I care about them, me showing them that I love them, hey, listen, I'm here to help you be the best football player you can be. I'm asking you, how good do you want to be? And what are you willing to sacrifice? And what price are you willing to pay in order to be the player that you want to be? Okay. Now understand, when I get on your ass, I'm not getting on your ass to hurt your feelings or embarrass you or anything else. I'm getting on your ass because you told me that you wanted to be an all-pro, that you wanted to be a Super Bowl player, that you told me that this is what. So if you approach it from that standpoint, then you put the onus back on them. Now, if you go in the shell after that, that's on you. You're showing the world, and you lied to yourself by saying that I wanted to be X, Y, and Z, but you're not willing to sacrifice, and you're not willing to do what's necessary to be that. You know.
Okay.
So it's really just how you go about framing it all.
Yes, you take the hardcore nurturing approach, but there are a lot of coaches, as we all know, get in a player's face, curse at them, and some players don't receive that well. Some coaches are not going to change how they coach. You got a lot of old school coaches still in the National Football League, even though the push has been towards getting younger coaches, more innovative coaches who can relate to this modern day NFL player. You still have a lot of old guard coaches out there that are going to coach their way, and sometimes it's just not effective. You know, plain and simple, it's just not effective.
No, listen, I get it. I get it. But I think that they're trying to listen. Buddy Ryan never asked me what I wanted to be or what I wanted to do. He just coached me hard as hell. Yeah. And I had the mental fortitude and I was locked in on where I wanted to go, understanding I had Mount Everest to overcome as an 8th round draft pick, and I took it. What I needed to take, I took it. The other BS went out the other ear. Okay. But in order to coach these players today, you got to show them that you really care about them, you know, because I'm sure there were players that Buddy ran off that felt like he didn't give two hoots about him. For 2 years, I didn't think he cared about me. He didn't even call me by my name. But the minute he called me by my name, guess what? I'm like, oh, I'm one of his boys now. Okay.
He called you Zeph. He called you Zeph.
It was better than 59, Rube. It was 59. He called me 59 for 2 years.
He called everybody by their number until they were like in their 3rd, 4th year.
Until you proved yourself.
He would usually call them by your first number. Like even if you change your number, he'd call you by your first number. That's how. Or like if you went to high school in like, you know, Texas, you know, you're the kid from Texas, even if you never like, you know, you lived there for 1 year, but he was a piece of work. But I think what Nick does really well is he does these things you were just talking about. I think he's really, really good at. I mean, look, he's got his deficiencies and you know, we've seen them, and you hope he gets better at them. But I think he has done a great job of getting guys to buy in, of being tough, but also being a player coach in that, you know, he treats them like grown men. He's tough on them, but you have 53 guys in that locker room who are playing hard throughout bad losses to the Cowboys, the Chiefs, the Buccaneers, the Raiders, and he never lost the team. He never lost the locker room. Mm-hmm. And I think that speaks highly of him.
Well, but even the nurturing mode doesn't work. And I'm not just talking about football now. I'm talking about across the board in sports. Look at how many athletes now, if they don't get what they want to be traded, i.e. Deshaun Jackson. He gets to go back home. All of a sudden, he talks his way out of going back home and goes to Vegas because he's not getting enough looks. See, the mindset should be, I'm getting paid. I have a chance to play at home in front of my family and friends. And I'm playing with a contender. Oh, that's not good enough for a lot of these guys. Yeah, but
they didn't want him either. That was kind of mutual.
I understand that, but I'm saying if he had to open his mouth, he would have still been there. But you look at baseball, basketball, football. Look at how many guys now. I want to be traded. Really? Why? Because you're not getting enough looks, enough touches. Why?
It's a different age, D.
I wanted to be traded off. Yes. I wanted to be traded off quick slants for 3 years, but they never.
Man! Listen, it's a different age because these players. You got to realize when I was playing, we didn't have the type of power that these guys have now.
No.
You know,
No.
with guaranteed contracts, with signing bonuses that are guaranteed, so on and so forth. These players are realizing when players look at Tom Brady call his own shot and LeBron James jump around and look at, you know, what's going on in the sports world and how much money guys are being paid. They understand now that if you're a top flight player, then you hold sway. You can call your own shot and nobody has anything to say about it. And guess what? The team, the owner, the GM, he's going to acquiesce because they don't want to have to deal with the nonsense.
And you know who loses out is the fans, because
absolutely,
you know, especially NBA. The NBA is the worst. I mean, guys go from team to team to team. They go. They want to be with the Nets. Then they want to be with the Lakers.
With the Lakers,
And you know, like as a fan, you're like, you don't even know who week to week you're rooting for. Who's on your team? He's got a max contract, but he's opting out. He's making $20 million, but he's opting out. He doesn't want to be here. They're trading.
Yes.
You know, it's tough. Look, free agency was great for the players, and I'm all for it. And Keith Jackson was at the forefront of a lot of that stuff, and kudos to him. And I think it's a great system. But there's something to be said for stability and keeping the team together. And keeping the nucleus together, and you know, I think that's really valuable for the team and for fans.
All right, we got a couple of minutes left, and I want to touch on two things. I want to talk about the Jets coming up, but first I want to talk about Nick Sirianni. Just quickly, I just want to. I had an issue with him on Sunday because after watching what worked for 4 weeks, he reverted back to, in my opinion, last week what he did weeks 1 through 4. Okay, how the hell does that happen?
Well, first of all, without Jordan Howard, and then Miles got dinged up. Miles wasn't healthy going into the game. You know, he had a tough time. So look, they still ran 33 times for 208 yards. I was okay with the mix of runs and passes. I thought there was a lot of things there in the passing game. The Giants secondary stinks. Their corners are hurt. I thought there were plays to be made in the passing game. I thought he still mixed it up enough. I mean, gosh, they ran for over 200 yards. So that part of it didn't bother me. For me, Sunday was really more about execution than play calling. Jalen Hurts has to know to throw the ball into the stands, you know, and instead of taking 3 points off the scoreboard.
Why do you even call that play? I'm curious. See, this is a conversation that we had in postgame, you know, off the air, okay? Up to 15 seconds, you're in the headsets with the quarterback, right? And then they shut it off. So what was that conversation? I would give anything to be a fly in Jalen Hurts' ear to understand what that conversation was like. Okay, we're in position for 3. We got the 3 now, okay? But we're going to take a shot at the end zone. If it ain't there, throw it away or take the sack. We're in position, okay? Did that conversation happen? Because in my mind, there's no way in hell that conversation just happened and 5 seconds later he throws that damn interception.
It happened. I mean, that conversation happened, and he just made a terrible decision. And, you know, part of the problem was that they ran on the previous play, so they used their last timeout. I would have liked to throw on the previous down, save that timeout, you know, and then there's not that pressure to rush the play, you know, like he did. I mean, that clock was running down, too. He was almost at the point where, you know, even if he threw incomplete, they weren't going to have time to get the field goal team. They were going to be out of time. So the whole sequence was bad. But look, I think as far as pass run ratio, I mean, they've been as run heavy as any team we've seen in the NFL in the last 10 years. And without Jordan Howard, they're a different team. I mean, his power up the middle, and then without Miles being 100%, that left him with Gainwell, who's more of a receiver than a runner, and Boston Scott.
I said in pregame, you know, that Boston Scott should get, you know, more touches in this game. Why? Because Boston Scott will hit it up in the inside
and bounce off.
He had 17 touches.
Yeah, but I mean,
and he fumbled on the biggest one. So
I agree, but they had 100 yards rushing in the third quarter alone.
Yeah,
of all the yards of the 200 yards, they had 100 in the third quarter alone. So what took you so long?
That didn't bother me. Honestly, that didn't bother me. I thought there were plays to be made in the passing game. The quarterback didn't make it.
You know, going back to what you're saying about the quarterback.
Hold on a second. Yeah, you're playing against the 28th ranked run defense, opposed to the 22nd ranked pass defense. Why would you stop what you've been successful with for the last 4 weeks to try to attack in the passing game. Because once you establish the run, you can get all of that stuff in the passing game.
22nd and 28th isn't that big a difference. And, that the Giants didn't have a lot of their personnel in the secondary. So I thought there were advantages. I thought they had a big advantage in the passing game. I thought they were going to throw it up and down the field on the Giants. They didn't, but I didn't mind.
I was afraid that they'd try.
Oh, you got to throw the ball a little bit, Seth.
Yeah.
Listen,
I had no problem with the play calling. I had no problem with the play calling.
I'm sorry. I did.
No, I didn't. Like Reuben said, you ran the ball 33 times for over 200 yards. The bottom line is you didn't finish what you started. You scored 7 points. 7 points.
You got to extrapolate, and I get tired of people saying that. You got to extrapolate Jalen Hurts' carries out of there, okay? Jalen Hurts carried the ball, he carried the ball 8 times and led the team in rushing. So you got to extrapolate those numbers out of there because for me, it always comes down to in the run game, how many times do your running backs touch the ball? Okay, the running backs ran the ball 24 times. Jalen Hurts threw it 31 times. That hadn't been your recipe, and we don't know how many of those 8. We don't know how many of those 8 times that he ran it was actually played.
How many carries do you want to give Boston Scott?
You can say that about the previous 4 games. He was a leading rusher the previous 4 games. When you look at the final stats, he's had more carries than any running back in the previous 4 games. So those numbers, yes, they were inflated. They were. Well, it doesn't make a difference. He's running the ball. Is what I'm saying. The numbers are still inflated. When your quarterback's your leading rusher and you're running for an average 175 yards for 5 consecutive games, you've averaged 217 yards going into the Giants game over the last 4 games, and your quarterback's the leading numbers. Those numbers are inflated, plain and simple. And I go back to what I said. I don't want my quarterback running the football 10, 12 times a game. I don't want my quarterback being the next RG3, a kid who had a lot of promise, and one hit destroyed RG3's career. Listen, hit.
I agree, and maybe it's the way that I'm framing it. I would like for the Eagles to come out early in this game, okay, and establish that, we're going to run it down your throat. That's what we're going to do, okay? Because if you can do that early against a team like that, now you set the tone for the game. Now when you go play action passes and everything else, you can get what you want in the passing game because you're running at such a clip. You force them to get out of 2 high safety and get in single high, okay? Now the chess match begins. They're in 2 high, we're going to run it. They're in 1 high, we're going to throw it. That, for me,
right,
that was the issue. They waited too long to get to a point where the run game could have mattered, and they gave the Giants hope. And you can't do that with a team that you're supposed to beat. You got to snatch their heart out and show it to them before they close their eyes.
Absolutely.
Early in the game.
You can attack with the passing game too, and they tried to do that, and the plays were there. We could go around and around on that, but I was okay with the play calling.
We may see a similar game plan against the Jets. The Jets are terrible also.
Lord
defense.
Please no. Please.
I'm telling you, it could very well happen.
My blood.
I hope Jalen throws 55 passes Sunday just to see how Seth to see Seth on the post game.
If Jalen plays on Sunday, he plays, you got to wait for his foot injury.
Okay, so before we wrap, we got a minute. Give me each of you guys' thoughts on the Jets game coming up.
Well, yeah, I think hopefully the Giants game was a wake up call that you're not a good team yet. You still have a losing record. You haven't accomplished anything, and anybody can beat you on any given Sunday. And hopefully that message got through to them. They went up there and they got embarrassed by a team that they should have beat. This Jets team has won, 3 games? They beat the Titans. Yep. It's a good win. That was back in September. They beat the Bengals. It's a good win. They haven't, and they beat the Texans, which is not a good win. They're very beatable. But I'll tell you what, if they make the same mistakes they made Sunday, they're not going to win the game. If they go in there and think we can show up and win, it's not going to happen. So, we'll see. We'll see how much they learn from Sunday.
They just beat a Texans team that upset a Titans team, and they beat them in Texas' backyard. So now the Jets, basically momentum-wise, is flying sky high right now. And I guarantee
they're giving up a ton of points, though.
Yes, they are. But this team, this team right now, the Giants just showed the Jets how do you play the Eagles. Here's what you do. and you might have a chance in the fourth quarter against the Eagles. We held them to 7 points because you can get inside the quarterback's head. Oh, by the way, the quarterback could be playing on the bad foot Sunday. So keep him in a corral. Make him beat you through it. Give him the 200 yards rushing. You can keep him out of the end zone. I think the Eagles should hit him in the mouth early and take him out of the game, take their heart out by halftime, and cruise to the finish line. But there's a bigger part of me that doesn't think that's going to happen. I still say the Eagles win the game, but I don't think it's going to be a blowout.
Guys, it's always a pleasure to talk with you guys. And Rube, don't think that I'm coming at you, buddy.
Man, I love it.
It's passion.
I can take it.
You stop stirring the pot, D-Gun.
Stand your ground, Rube. Don't take that from him. Stand your ground.
Man.
Hey,
me and Seth go back to 19. I wasn't around in 86, but my first year covering the Eagles was 87. And that was Seth's second year. So we go back, that's a long time, Seth.
I know. We down like four flat tires, D-Gun. You can't break this, man. You can't break it. Hey, listen, fellas, I appreciate you. As always, I always say our time is our most valuable commodity. I thank you guys for spending this time with me. I know that my viewers love what they heard, and it's always a pleasure to have you guys on the Seth Joyner Show. I thank you, man. I thank you both.
Likewise, man. Thank you for having me on, man.
You got it. All right, now that's the end of the Seth Joyner Show for today. As always, take care of each other and be good to each other. But most important, make sure you love each other. We'll be right back here next week with another edition of the Seth Joyner Show. Peace.